Monique did not have to die. I didn't have to throw her out like she was garbage either. My baby was so precious to me, to all of us. And I'm asking you, Your Honor, to please use your power to make sure they spend the rest of their miserable, insignificant lives in prison.
A successful real estate agent with a beautiful family, including 2 small daughters, is called to show a home on New Year's Eve. Despite it being the day before the holiday, she takes the showing as the person requesting to see the house seemed persistent and really in need of a home. In fact, the person called several times to ensure Monique was available and would be able to make it. Unfortunately, after arriving at the home to assist who she thought was a home seeker, she would soon lose her life. Hello there. If you're here for the first time, please subscribe to the channel and click on the notification bell beside it so you get notifications whenever I upload new content. And if you've been here before, thank you for coming back. Please don't forget to drop a like on the video, as it helps the channel out immensely and allows me to bring you more of this content in the future. In today's video, we'll be talking about the case of Monique Baugh. I think many of you will find this one extremely sad and troubling given the facts surrounding the murder, especially since it seemed like she was used as a chess piece to get revenge on someone else. There's a lot to unpack here surrounding how she was killed and the violent manner in which they carried out the act, so let's get into the details. From the outside looking in, Monique seemed to have it all together. She was in a committed relationship with the man she loved, John Mitchell Momeau. Her career in real estate was thriving, and their 2 children together made up a beautiful family. Everyone who knew Monique also knew her passion for real estate. Her family and friends described her as a hard worker, someone who would do what she could to make things happen, and a real go-getter. This being the case, when a potential client contacted her to view a house, it didn't matter that it was New Year's Eve. She was happy to show it to them. The date was December 31st, 2019 at the time. Monique was 28 years old. What seemed to be a robbery attempt made at her home in Minneapolis, Minnesota, ended up being one piece of a larger and targeted hit. John Mitchell Momeau and their 2 daughters were spending the evening at home when a gunman opened the front door and fired several rounds, hitting Momeau multiple times. The masked man didn't have to kick the door down or break into the house, so Momeau was caught off guard and essentially helpless. Although he suffered several gunshot wounds from the intruder, he was able to call 911, and paramedics, along with the police, were sent to his home immediately. While bleeding profusely, Momeau was able to make it upstairs to the kids while waiting for the ambulance to arrive, and he confirmed they were unharmed. He was later taken to the local hospital where he was treated and ultimately recovered from the shooting. But again, as I mentioned a moment ago, the intruder made it into the home by using a key, which was one of the most concerning things about the shooting. This was one of the first things investigators sought to understand: where the key came from and how did the shooter get it. Roughly an hour after police were called to Monique and John Mitchell's home, they received another emergency call not far away. It was reported that 3 gunshots were heard near a back alley on the 1300 block of Russell Avenue North. When they arrived at the scene, a woman was found dead with multiple gunshot wounds. After taking a closer look at the victim's body, it was uncovered that she was shot a total of 3 times. But not only that, her hands were also bound with tape. This was the body of Monique Baugh. Monique had been shot twice in the torso and once in the face at point-blank range. Near her body, detectives found .45 caliber shell casings, which turned out to be the same caliber casings that were found at her house from the other shooting. Shortly after the murder, witnesses came forward and reported seeing an older Model tan Buick drive down the same alley just minutes before the gunshots were heard. A U-Haul with Arizona license plates that was seen near Monique's house had also been spotted in the area where her body was found. At this point, all the signs pointed to Monique's murder and her boyfriend being shot within hours as being related incidents. Her black BMW was found at a house in Maple Grove, which is a suburb area outside of Minneapolis. Upon further investigation inside the home, they found one single pink acrylic nail, but no sign of forced entry or homicide. However, now that her car was found, police could start looking for surveillance footage to track her last movements. A neighbor's camera caught Monique's car arriving at the Maple Grove home at around 3 p.m. on December 31st. Not long after, a U-Haul was seen reversing into the driveway before two people jumped out and entered the residence. Moments later, the footage shows Monique being forced out of the home by the same two individuals and shoved into the back of the U-Haul. Investigators now knew this U-Haul was involved in the crime, and tracking it down became their main priority. It wasn't long before they were able to determine the vehicle had been rented from a rental company in Ramsey County. When the U-Haul was located and searched, police found zip ties and 4 pink press-on fingernails, which were later found to match the one found at their Maple Grove home. The police got the rental agreement for the truck, which led them to 2 men who were listed on it. The 2 admitted to renting the van for 41-year-old Cedric Berry in exchange for heroin. But who was Cedric Berry? Police arrested Berry on January 2, 2020. When searching his 2002 Buick, investigators found 13 packs of heroin in the center console along with a black mask. A look at Berry's rap sheet uncovered that he was no stranger to the police. He had an extensive criminal history and was a convicted drug dealer. He had even been convicted of manslaughter in 2002, with other convictions ranging from DUIs to assault charges. Investigators were reportedly able to match Berry to the surveillance footage and his fingerprints to several items used in Monique's murder. He was later charged with the kidnapping and murder of Monique, and the attempted murder of Momo. His bond was set at $2 million. Monique's family welcomed the arrest but felt that other people had to have been involved, which was a feeling shared by the police. Who made the calls requesting the showing? Who was the other individual seen forcing Monique out of the house she thought she was showing to a home seeker? They were later able to identify 40-year-old Barry Davis, the brother of Cedric Berry's wife, as the other man involved. He was not immediately caught though, as he was on the run on the onset of the investigation. However, he was ultimately caught in a hotel in St. Louis. Davis and Berry had their charges upgraded from second-degree to premeditated first-degree murder and kidnapping. But these weren't the only people involved. 3 more arrests would follow. Cedric Berry's wife, Shantae Sharice Davis, was arrested and accused of booking a hotel room for the others involved in the murder and driving her husband to pick up the U-Haul that was used to kidnap Monique. 28-year-old Elsa Segura and 36-year-old Lyndon Wiggins were also arrested in connection to the crimes. The first 2 to be tried were Cedric Berry and Barry Davis. During the trial, prosecutors told the jury how the men had held Monique in the U-Haul for 3 hours while they interrogated her about Momo's whereabouts. While trying to get the information out of her, they reportedly beat and tortured Monique to the point that bruises and scratches were visible on her body when she was found. One of her teeth was chipped during the encounter, and her acrylic nails had been ripped off at the same point. It isn't known if Monique ripped them off trying to fight the assailants off or if they did it while torturing her. After he and Davis abused Monique for hours, Berry was able to get the information he needed. We now know this is when he then took Monique's key, went to the home she shared with Momo, and shot him multiple times. On June 4th, 2021, both Berry and Davis were found guilty of all charges placed against them, and on July 12th, they were sentenced. County District Judge Peter Cahill gave Berry 13 years for his kidnapping conviction, 20 for attempted murder, and life without parole for murder. Davis was handed the same. But how were Elsa Segura and Lyndon Wiggins involved in this? Wiggins was a former record label associate of Momo and believed Momo had snitched on him for a drug-related crime. Momo had testified at Berry and Davis's trial, but he didn't personally know either of the men. Early on in the investigation, Momo had mentioned Lyndon Wiggins as someone who would have wanted him hurt. Wiggins had previously accused Momo of stealing music after he left the record label. Elsa Segura was Wiggins' girlfriend, and she was accused of setting up the fake viewing so that Monique would go to the Maple Grove home. Wiggins was tried and convicted for his involvement in the murder and attempted murder. A jury found him guilty of aiding and abetting premeditated first-degree murder, aiding and abetting attempted premeditated second-degree murder, and various kidnapping charges. He and Elsa were both ultimately sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Despite overwhelming evidence against them, both Berry and Davis have mentioned their innocence. In court, each disagreed with being found guilty and stated they hope the truth comes out one day so that the family has closure.
I hate you guys had to go through this, and I will always pray that the truth comes out.
Because justice wasn't served. They didn't prove that nothing to do with me with this shit.
I do think they proved it. The jury thought they proved it. I think they did quite a good job of proving it, as a matter of fact.
I'd like to hear your thoughts about this case in the comments section. Like I said earlier, it seems that Monique was not the ultimate person of interest here for Barry and Davis, but that they abducted her to gain access to Momo. If they could have gotten to him without capturing her, do you think that this would have all played out the same? Or do you think they had orders to execute her regardless? There are many other theories out there about Momo's past as an alleged drug dealer that had beef with at least one rival gang. But nothing credible has surfaced to tie Monique to Barry or Davis, besides the fact that she was in a relationship with Momo. Others have pointed out that as a rapper, Momo lived a flashy lifestyle. He was seen with other prominent rappers wearing expensive jewelry and flashing money, which could have brought about jealousy from many different individuals around the city. Either way, a sad case to say the least. Please don't forget to like this video and share it with the people you know who may enjoy this content as well. It helps the channel grow and allows me to create this content for you in the future. Catch you in the next video.